Welcome back, Ram fans. Hey, our next episode, we are going to have a combined draft with Scott Richmond and Paul Walia taking turns making selections. That's going to be a lot of fun, bringing two of my draft gurus together, two guys that really know these players a lot better than I do, actually. This episode, what I'm going to do is revisit the attempt to try every possible strategy, or at least every more or less realistic strategy that the Rams may adopt in this draft. And by strategy, I mean the order in which they may take these critical positions that we all think they need to draft. And in this example, I'm going to be including edge, defensive line, and wide receiver in every possible order with those first three picks. And then the fourth pick at the end of the third round, I'll flex maybe interior offensive line. We'll see how it goes. Now, yeah, I'm just going 3 rounds to make this comparison. And, I'm not convinced that these are the three positions, but for this example, that's what we're going to do. We'll get into real mock drafts, our final mock drafts over the next few days. This is just one more experiment to see how this may break out. So let's get into it. The first example I'm going to do, the first mock draft I am going to run here is in this order: edge, defensive line, wide receiver. And also, one other change, I'm using a different database this time. I'm using NFL.com's mock draft machine, for better or worse, just to change it up a little bit, see how this one works out. I haven't done a real analytic comparison of which one's more accurate, this one or the NFL mock draft database. And I'm not sure what we're going to use in the coming days, but let's give this a trial run. I've played around with it a little bit, so bear with me as I struggle through this. And I'm going to add this mock draft to the stage, and we're ready to go. And this is the order we're going to go: edge, defensive line, wide receiver. Let's get this draft started. And got this set on medium fast speed. We'll see how it goes. We're going to get a bunch of trade. We'll throw some trade opportunities up there. I'm just going to ignore them for this test we're doing here. And we're going to generally take the highest rated player. I reserve the highest rated player at the position on the board for us, but I reserve the right to flex. And there we have Latu, and that's kind of a no-brainer. Both defensive tackles are still there. I'd be surprised if that happens, because there's a couple teams ahead of the Rams that are going to be zeroed in on defensive linemen as well, defensive tackles. And so we'll go ahead and make Latu the selection. And we have 3 picks left. The next pick, we are going to select a defensive lineman. And I think this is pretty educational, if I dare use that term, for us to understand the implications of drafting one position over the other with that first pick. We're going to find the highest rated defensive lineman here. Defensive interior, and Chris Jenkins is still there. And as you can tell, I am not as adept at this mock draft database as I am on the other one. And we're going to go ahead and, that would be a nice surprise to have Chris Jenkins available. They have him as the 50th ranked player. If that's the case, not that unrealistic. So we'll go ahead and draft Jenkins. And now we get to the next pick, which will be wide receiver. Team needs, they have quarterback up there and tackle. Yeah, I guess. No mention of safety. So we're looking for a wide receiver here, and there's Javon Baker. I'd be happy with that as well. Who else is there? Ray Davis has really climbed up some boards. Jalen McMillan out of Washington. Jalix Hunt, edge rusher. Man, he has soared up the boards. I thought he was a sleeper pick I found a while back, and I guess he really blew up at some point. So we're going to go ahead and take Javon Baker. So far, how this draft has broken out, not too bad, really. And we will consider any position here, but I'm going to go ahead and draft Cooper Beebe. They have him as a third round pick, number 93 overall. And we have talked ad nauseum, and I apologize for that, about, hey, love the offensive line, not in love with the depth. So I'll go ahead and draft Cooper Beebe there. That's the end of our draft. Latu, Jenkins, Baker, and Beebe. 2 defense, 2 offense, and 2 guys, Latu and Jenkins, that should be able to make an immediate impact. I really like this draft. We still have 7 picks left after this, so a lot of work left to do. But if we came away with this group, I'd be pretty happy. What's left over after this? Safety, probably. Maybe another defensive lineman. Another running back, perhaps. Tight end. But we address the significant needs here, I think. Not that wide receiver's in need, but we need to make sure we have a solid wide receiver room at all times. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. And this second run, we will be going wide receiver, edge, defensive line. And I am going to enter this draft and get it going. And there we go. So similar look at this point, but we're going to go wide receiver. And is Brian Thomas already gone? This draft seems to have the offensive players going a lot faster. Brian Thomas is there. They have Mitchell above Thomas. I'm going to go ahead and take Thomas, though. And this is the dilemma. Drafting at 19, you're probably not going to get the real value you want. I mean, 22, 25. If you love the player, you go ahead and draft them. I like all 4 of these wide receivers on the board, actually. Well, I like Coleman too, and Roman Wilson would be a good fit for the Rams, but not till the second round. I'm going to go ahead and take Brian Thomas with that first pick, number 19 overall. And our next pick, we will be taking edge, and I'm afraid we may be a little disappointed with what's available at this point. Jonah Ellis, I've seen him going a lot later than this. This board has him a little bit higher. Braswell would be an option too. Nealand, a bigger edge guy. Paul feels like he'd be better on the inside. I'll go ahead and take Ellis, who's the highest rated player. And I'm already feeling a little bit worse about this draft. 2 more picks, defensive line, and then we have the ability to do whatever we want with that last pick. And Michael Hall Jr., Devondre Sweat. I know a lot of Ram fans like Sweat, at least a few. I just don't know. He's a big, hulking nose tackle. I just don't think he's going to be on the field enough to really warrant taking him with a 3rd overall pick. Hall, a little undersized, really disruptive. Wingo, character guy. Man, you got to love his story. But I'll go ahead and take Hall, the highest guy on this board right now, defensive lineman. And as you can see, defensive line is a little bit deeper. You get into the 3rd round now, a little bit of a drop off, but still some guys that are gonna make your roster, obviously, but really gonna make an impact. And here we can go wherever, any direction we want. And we have a linebacker that I really love, a tight end. You know what? Offensive line, interior offensive line depth is really important, but Trotter is a legit sideline to sideline athletic linebacker just to mix it up here a little bit. I'll go linebacker here. And we'll see how this looks in the end. So in this one, we started off with offense, wide receiver, and then 3 defensive players. Legitimate approach given where the Rams are right now. In good shape here. I like this pick. I'm not sure about Ellis in the second round, though. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what we got for this example. And in a real draft, if you want to take an edge in the second round, this may be the guy you're taking, someone like him. Well, we got 4 more drafts to do, and let's get it rolling. And this time we are going to do defensive line, wide receiver, edge. Edge is the third pick, our third pick. And we're going to get this rolling right away. Try to speed this up a little bit. We're kind of getting in a groove here. Understand what's going on, and that's kind of a no-brainer because we're taking defensive line first. It's got to be Newton. Okay, so we're in the second round here, and we got to go wide receiver. And what is this telling us? This is telling us that we may not have the guy we really like with the second round pick for going wide receiver. Corley, a little undersized, man. He is a juggernaut, though, with the ball in his hands. Wow. Not sure if he's a good fit for the Rams, though. Jermaine Burton, Devontae Walker, Javon Baker. We got Baker with our first third round pick in a previous draft. I'm just going to go ahead and go with Burton. It's not so much about the player. It's just giving you an idea of what we may be forced to select if we're really zeroing in on it. Just gives you an idea what we have to, just gives you an idea of what we're going to have to do if we're zeroing in on a particular position. I don't think the Rams are going to do that, but the downside is you come out of this draft without a wide receiver of note. So we'll go ahead and select Burton. And our next pick in the third round will be edge. And I'll just go ahead and take the highest rated guy here, Dorless. And, he's a guy that's got some upside, but not terribly excited about that, to be quite frank. But I don't know if he's that much different than some of the guys we already have on the roster, Nick Hampton, O'Shawn Mathis. So what do we have here? We can do whatever we want. I'm going to go ahead and go with the center. Kalen Bullock is a safety that would kind of sort of fill a need. We do need to add a safety at some point, I think. Not sure who our starter is at this point. I'm going to go ahead and take Cedric Van Pran, the center out of Georgia. And similar to what we did in that first draft, beef up the depth on our interior offensive line. Taking some notes here so I don't have to go through every piece of this video to sum things up at the end here. And there we have it. This so far is my least favorite of the 3 we've done. Okay, let's do another one. And this one we're going edge, wide receiver, defensive line. I have a feeling we may like how this one goes. Let's see if Latu is there. Or does someone else drop to us? Verse. There's Latu, and Newton, and Verse are all there. I'll just keep it consistent. Maybe I should change it up. Let's go Verse on this one. Verse, Latu, you get the idea. We'll take Jared Verse. There may be some of you that have concerns about Latu's injury history with his neck. Valid concern. I don't know, Latu just strikes me as the type of guy he's gonna make a name for himself in the NFL. I just feel it. Now we're going wide receiver. Hey, Keon Coleman, no brainer. We're taking him. forgot to change this. Oh no, I got edge, wide receiver, defensive line. So we're going defensive line next with this fourth example. Defensive line, defensive line, defensive line. Where are you? Let's just filter here. Defensive interior is what we've been doing. And hey, Michael Hall's there. We got him earlier in our second draft. Oh no, this is the same place we selected him before. So we still get Hall like we did in the second example. And we've got two more to go. Let's get through this. So that, see, what do we got here? We got the 99th pick, and we can do whatever we want here. Cornerback Renardo Green, he can play a little safety. He's the type of guy that can be very valuable, very versatile. I'm going to go ahead and draft Renardo Green, add a guy to our secondary, and I think Ram fans will like that pick. If you read about him a little bit, doesn't box you in as far as where Quentin Lake and Russ East can play, and Kobe Durant. You can move those guys around, put them in the spot that they are best suited to play, and Renardo Green fill in wherever else. So we got Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Michael Hall, and Renardo Green. You know what? I like this draft, and you can substitute Latu for Verse. Renardo Green is a guy that, we're not sure what the Rams are going to do with Quentin Lake. Is he going to stay at that star/nickel spot, play a little bit of both? Is Russ East the starting safety? What are we going to do with Kobe Durant? And Renardo Green, he can possibly play 3 or 4 different spots in this secondary. So it just gives you much needed flexibility. I like this draft. Got 2 more to go. In this next one, we are going to be doing wide receiver, defensive line, edge. And I do not feel good about this one. We'll see how it goes, though. Wide receiver, maybe Brian Thomas will be there. And he is not. Let's filter just to be sure here. Wide receiver. We have to go all the way down to Adonai Mitchell. Hey, I love the guy, but not sure if that's the way to go here. Now, did we take him? We got him earlier, and did we select him? We took Brian Thomas in our second draft. I love Ladd McConkey too, but let's go with Mitchell to keep it legit here. And we're going to go defensive line. And we probably have some good options here. Braden Fisk. He's the guy that just tore it up at the Senior Bowl. Gets really good push. He was originally, I think, a 4th or 5th round pick. Another guy that's really climbed the board over the last couple months. Now we have to go edge, and this is the dilemma. You pass on edge, and you're going to have some limitations here. And I'll just go ahead and take Austin Booker out of Kansas. And again, I'm not throwing shade on Austin Booker, but a lot of those guys on the board at this point, are they really that much better than Nick Hampton, O'Shawn Mathis, Keir Thomas? Maybe, maybe not. And with this last pick, we can do whatever we want. Dadrian Taylor Demerson is a good fit for this defense, a safety. He could potentially be our starting safety if we selected him here. But would we rather improve our depth along the offensive line? BB or Taylor Demerson? I don't know. I think we need to add a tight end, but not here. It's a tough decision. Those are the tough decisions you're going to have to make here. I'm I think you could get a decent safety later off, both these positions. I think there's talent later in the draft, but Cooper Beebe is a solid add here. We already added him once. He was our 4th pick in our first draft we did here today. And I'll go ahead and select him again, but do not lose sight of that safety. I'd love to have him on this team. I talked a little bit about him the other day. Stumbled across his profile doing a mock draft, and it's like, wow, this sounds like exactly what we need in our secondary. So there it is, Mitchell, Fisk, Booker, Beebe. I like this draft, but have we addressed the edge adequately at this point? And I know a lot of Ram fans feel like we need to go that way. And there's a camp that says roll with what we have, address the defensive interior, wide receiver. So here's this one, take it or leave it. And we have one more to do, and it is defensive line edge, wide receiver. I'm assuming Newton will be there. Murphy will not. Maybe they'll both be there. We'll see. Newton and Murphy. They have Newton above Murphy. I'm going to take Murphy. He's the guy Ram fans seem to be zeroed in on. And our next pick will be edge. And we will take Adisa Isaac. Oh, Paul Wally is going to be thrilled. This one's not turning out so bad. I think what I'm learning as this spins, I think what we're learning is edge's got to be one of those first 2 picks. If you think we need edge, you better get it with one of those first 2 picks. And now we're going wide receiver, and there's Javon Baker. Is this the second time we've taken him? He's the real deal. Check him out. You will not be disappointed. And now we have, so we've gone 2 defense and wide receiver. So we've got 2 defense, 1 wide receiver. We could add to the offensive line once more with Van Pran. We did that with our 3rd example. And we could also go with the safety, Taylor Demerson. We just talked about him. Trotter, the linebacker. Hey, there's some real options here with this approach. We've got defensive line, we've got edge, wide receiver. We could go secondary with Taylor Demerson, linebacker with Trotter, pump up that interior offensive line with Cedric Van Pran. And do the Rams look at this and say, what's our biggest, what unit needs the most help? Or let's get a baller on this team. I don't care what position. It comes down to a matter of what guy they like. I don't care about it. Maybe they love Michael Pratt and they draft him. But, I'll just go ahead and take the highest rated player, Dadrian Taylor Demerson. And I'm telling you, if they draft him here, he will be our starting safety, one of our starting safeties. So that's a selection. We got 6 drafts, 6 different approaches using a different database, a new database, the PFFNFL.com database. Very easy to use, kind of like it. Not sure about the rankings, how they stack these players up. They had Newton above Murphy. That was the first red flag. But hey, what do I know? What do they know? Not saying I know more than them, just everywhere else I've seen Murphy is well above Newton. So that's our last pick, last draft. Murphy, Isaac, Baker, and Dadrian Taylor Demerson. Not bad. Now, which one of these do I prefer? Well, let me think about that. Let's go the first one, Latu, Jenkins, Baker, Beebe. You got edge, defensive line, wide receiver, and interior offensive line. I like that draft. The second one, Thomas, Ellis, Hall, and Trotter went wide receiver, edge, defensive line, linebacker. Not feeling that one. I feel like Thomas and Ellis are both a little bit of stretches when we selected them. I'm going to cross that one off my list. No go on that one. Our third one, Newton, wide receiver Burton, edge Dorius, center Van Pran. I'm not feeling that one either. I'd be okay with Newton. The other three picks, we added some interior offensive line depth with Van Pran. The other two, I'm not sure how much of an impact they make, or if Burton is a potential replacement for Cooper Kupp or a potential new number three. So I'll scratch that one off my list. Our fourth option, we went edge, wide receiver, defensive line, cornerback, and I'm kind of liking this one. Jared Verse, Latu, take your pick. Be happy with either one of them. And Keon Coleman in the second round, he is the real deal out of Florida State. A great red zone target. Kind of like this guy. And then Renardo Green giving you tons of flexibility in the secondary. Primary a cornerback, but he can slide back and play safety. He has done it. Actually like this draft a lot. Our fifth one, we had Adonai Mitchell, Braden Fisk, Austin Booker, and the interior offensive line, BB. That one's okay. Not thrilled about how we addressed edge. Again, assuming you feel like we need edge, I'm going to take that one off my list. And then the final one, we went defensive line, edge, and wide receiver. And that one was okay. We got Adisa Isaac in the second round. Got a starting safety, in my opinion. Actually, we may have picked up 4 starters. Now, the wide receiver Baker, he's probably not going to start right away, but he'll eventually be an impact player. Kind of like that one. So the first, fourth, and sixth options were probably our best. And those were edge, defensive line, wide receiver, edge, wide receiver, defensive line, and then defensive line, edge, wide receiver. Take your pick. Just a science experiment. One more before we get to the actual NFL draft. Man, decisions for our LA Rams.